Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to the All Balls Sports Show, a discussion of any and all sports, local, regional, and national. And now, here are your hosts, Dan James, Eddie Bobo, Ty Cobb, and the coach, Vance Ballou.
Thank you, Bill Jones. Welcome into the All the Ball Sports Show for this day in October. Actually, this is the 71st day of July. With 96-degree heat, it's the 71st day of July. Saw that on Facebook this morning. Welcome into the show. Hey, top of the show, I want to give a shout-out to the Cumberland County High School Jets. We were at their house back on September 11th. Mm-hmm. We had an absolute blast up there. And they're not having the greatest of seasons, but they've got the heart into the program.
I tell you what, they treated us like royalty.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I enjoyed every minute of it. I think they got a blast out of it. The coaches were on first, then brought some players on, and then had the senior cheerleaders come on. So, you know, and
it's not very often you get to go to a place and they say, what can we do to help you pack up and leave?
Yeah.
It's a nice way to say it, but they offered to carry our stuff out to the car, and it was wonderful. It was a great time.
Sure was.
The environment up there is just incredible when you go to a game or you're involved in a game at Cumberland County. Of course, we talked all about that on September 11th, but their field house, their stadium, the whole atmosphere, the two jets they have mounted out there in front of the school, and
the bathrooms,
the clean facilities.
Bathroom,
clean facilities. So my hat's off to Eric Blue and his staff for everything they did to be hospitable while we were there. So I want to get that at the top of the show because we've had a lot of folks who have joined the All the Ball Network just to see what we do, and this is what we do. And we're going to have Jason Hoath on a little bit later on as soon as he gets out of practice. Yeah, we hope so. But anyway, 2009 celebration is coming up, or recognition is coming up on Friday night. And we'll get into that with him when he gets here. But I just happen to have in my hot little hands a program from 2009. Yeah, so we'll go back and reminisce on some of the things that are in here. A whole lot of advertisers at one time, Chip. We had a bunch of them in there when we started our program.
Might have had something to do with the folks that were running the program.
Yeah, it could have been. But we got a lot of had a lot of coaches back then, a lot of players, an incredible amount of players.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good players.
That was the fourth year of our program that we had started.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had started fine-tuning it, and then this team made the run that they did. The next year, we had people calling us wanting to know how to get on the fence and how to advertise and get in the program and things like that. It's kind of amazing how winning will bring everybody want to get aboard the train and as it was going. And actually, 2009 through about 2013 was a fun time to be on there.
Oh, yeah, it was.
And the 2009 team will always be one of my favorite teams. 2008, 2009, probably my favorite two teams. Not that I didn't like 2010's bunch and the others, but I mean, as far as just a favorite, that it was just, I mean, they were just an absolute joy to work around both those groups, and it was just something else. And each team is their own. Mm-hmm. I mean, it changes.
Boy, that's for sure.
Yep.
And we've seen the progression up and down of the teams over the last 10 years.
Yep.
And you go through cycles, and you go through athleticism. And you go through all those well, in the same way in college football too.
Well,
unless you're Alabama,
and it's the same thing when you're running an organization.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have a real hot group of parents that jump in and do anything you need and be working with you, and then you know, it's like pulling hen's teeth to get something done out of some of the others.
I have
And it
never
was same
found,
way, same way with band.
but I have never found that pulling hen's teeth was quite that easy.
Quite
And
difficult.
you're right. The same way with band. What you would do, you would like in the section I was in with pit crew, or not pit crew, but with band guides. You would sign up 60, hope for 30, and get 15. And then those 15 would do double duty during the day because they loved doing what they were doing, which was fine. So you always thought 60, wanted 30, got 15. Just like that every single year.
You always get
And you
one.
had 200 kids.
You
That
always
was
get
amazing.
1/4 of what you.
Exactly, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and, you know, and the thing is, if you remember how I always phrased it, being the contest chair,
Mm-hmm.
I just need 4 hours from each parent.
And
Or
you had
grand-
some parents just
or grandparent,
absolutely refused to give you 4 hours.
I actually had one parent come up and say, "Well, what do you do other than ride around on a gator all day?"
I never questioned it
I
because I just figured you rode around on a gator all day.
I looked at the individual and I said, "Well, I start at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
and I'm unlocking everything. And if I'm lucky, I'm locking everything up by 4 a.m. the next morning.
That's right.
And the reason I'm riding on a gator is I've got to be at the stadium and I've got to be at the school,
Right.
wherever they need us. And I have to be on Hampshire Pike when the police come by."
Yeah. And you're hosing down fires.
Dan does a great Patton impersonation.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's it.
He was parking buses and tractor trailers like that.
Yeah. But there's a backstory that goes with that I will not talk about.
Yeah.
I refuse
Yeah.
to talk about that because the individuals involved know who they are and know what I had to go through that particular day and why I had to do it that way because they never did it again after that. Funny how that works.
Yeah. Mess up once.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Blast from the past. I saw Roger Reisner the other day. It's the
Did
first
you?
time I'd seen him in a while.
Yeah.
It was good to see him because
Come on in,
you
Coach.
talk about somebody who gave their time.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
threw in and helped us. Shout out to Roger if he happened to be listening. or
And
watching.
his son, Sean, was on the 2009 team.
Yes.
So there you go. Hey, Coach
Hey.
Jason Hoath is here.
Sorry I'm late.
Never mind. I'm not gonna say it.
Hey, this is kind of like the Mike Grable show on Monday. The first segment, they have to do it without the coach because he's still
Oh yeah.
at
oh,
the
yeah.
office and trying to get over there.
That's right. I told guys.
But it's funny that to get from the practice facility, the radio station's just right down the street.
I tell you what, the traffic was a little. I was out there today because
Really?
at Murray County Park, one of the elementary schools are doing one of the cross country meets today. So
okay.
it was a little while getting out of school today. So
All right, let's talk about the 2019 Lions. When you go back to August 16th when we had our jamboree, we were all sitting up in the press box going, I don't know about this team. We got our doubts about that. Of course, with the jamboree, you don't see everything
Right.
that you have to offer. But it just didn't look pretty at all. But then we go into the next week to where we have the Backyard Bowl, to where mechanically and musically nothing worked. So that brought us to putting speakers in out there that we'll talk about later. But a 13-12 game, and we're like, I don't know about this team. I'm not sure about this. What were you thinking at that time?
about the same thing you were. You know, the week of the jamboree, you know, it was the Friday before we scrimmaged with Cumberland County.
Yeah.
And, you know, we didn't look great against them, but it was our first scrimmage. And then the following Tuesday, we went down to Tullahoma and, you know, did fairly well against them. So I was kind of like, all right, that's not bad. And then Friday, going Creekwood, we kind of laid an egg in. But, you know, Creekwood, they're 5-1. They've done really well
Right.
since then. And they've been running that they run that triple option. They run it pretty good. So, yeah, we struggled that night. And then, of course, the Spring Hill game was a great atmosphere. And, those games are always close. Or they've been close the last several times we've played. And, but it was a great atmosphere. And glad we pulled that one out. But, we've had ups and downs a little bit this year so far. I still think we're headed in the right direction. So, I know we're about to head into a really tough part of our schedule next few weeks. So we'll see what we're made of.
What's that look for?
No. No, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, I was concerned when I saw some of the teams that was put on the schedule this time, and
yeah,
I said,
me too.
I said,
Well, Maurice was
"Ooh."
talking about that last night. He said, we had Rockvale, and then we lost Rockvale, and we had White County. Then White County said, I don't want to play anymore.
Well, they
But
pulled
let
out
me
a
tell you, and I will tell
TSSAA
you,
altogether.
Yeah, I'll tell you, White County team this year is not the White County team we saw last year.
No, they're not. Talking with the Blues,
Yeah.
because I know I'll keep up with Vance and see how Eric's doing and stuff. And he said, out of all years, they've actually got a couple of guys that can actually run now. So
Well, not only can they
right.
run, they got a huge line both offensively and defensively. So they're big up front.
And it just makes you wonder. Like, I wonder if they had guys transfer in, or if it's the same guys from last year. But
I don't know.
when you're not essentially a part of TSSAA anymore, you're not in the playoffs, and now they got a fire under them to do well. And after week 10, it's over.
Do you think the coach went, did I make the right choice?
maybe second guessing. I don't know, but it's wild though. So,
But there was a couple of breaks in that game with Cumberland County up there that Cumberland County had the opportunity to have 2 takeaways, and unfortunately they
Hit the guy in the numbers.
Hit the guy in the numbers, and he dropped the ball. But those things happen. You know, and but it just seemed like whenever White County decided they wanted to run the ball, they ran it.
Yeah.
And it was for 6, 7, 8 yards a pop. When they ran it, but they didn't have to throw the ball too much.
Now you guys go on the road to one of my least favorite places on the world to play, and that would be the Pit down in Franklin County. Lincoln County. And you come away with a big victory.
Yeah, that was a huge win for us. One, because it was a region game,
and 2, it was a homecoming.
And it was a homecoming game.
And usually you pick the worst team in the world for your homecoming.
I know. And we didn't do that this year either.
And usually at Lincoln County, there's an extra 6 on the field against you.
Yeah,
there was.
And it was my first time as a coach, head coach or assistant coach, just coaching to actually win in the Pit. I know last time Columbia won down there, I think it was 2012. Of course, I was in Mount Pleasant that year, but even before that, it had been several years before Columbia had won down there. Our 2010 team, that was one of our losses. Lincoln County,
I remember.
But and that
we
was the defining moment in our season too. But it was it was a big win for us that night. So
I have to give kudos to Eddie. Eddie was doing play-by-play for the local radio station during the 2009 and 10 teams. And he said that night, we were sitting there after Bill Draper hung his head over the edge up there.
The upside down Kilroy.
Yeah, thank you. He said, man, we just look flat-footed. He said, we're going to lose this game. And I'm like, they'll come out. And, that was the night that we changed quarterbacks.
Yeah, that was. It was a big night. And, it was, I remember Matthew Markham's first pass was interception. I was like, he'll be okay. It'll be okay. Yeah. And it worked out. And, of course, he played well, obviously, for the rest of the season for us. So, but that was definitely a defining moment that year.
Yeah, our players come out and they were just acting like, well, we're undefeated. We got this thing. We're here. This is our game.
And they were like 0-4 at that point.
And they weren't putting any effort into their pregame workout.
Right. Yeah.
And then and you look over and there's Lincoln County. They were all business.
They were.
They were all business. We were undefeated. Lincoln County hadn't won a game.
We lost Tullahoma.
Yeah, we were,
Oh, okay.
4-1 at that point.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. On that 2-point conversion.
Yeah, I know. Whew.
But anyway, we go down there and I'm watching Lincoln County warm up, and I look at our guys, and I looked at Dan. I said, I think we're gonna get beat tonight. And he says, really? I said, yeah. I said, look at the way that they're acting on their warm ups. They, and then look at Lincoln County down here. They're down there cracking heads on each other,
And that's where you learn the difference between cocky and confident.
You're right about that.
Cocky is saying you can do it. Confidence is doing it.
Yeah.
That's true.
But anyway,
But
it all worked out in the end.
Then you go, then you go to Nolensville this past week, and that wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't. It was a long night for us. First time we've ever played Nolensville. I think they're fifth year school, Williamson County, and watching them on film, we sat as a coach. Said, guys, they're pretty good.
They're pulling kids from Ravenwood and from Page.
Right. I was like, they're pretty good, and a lot of those Williamson County teams are very sound in what they do. They don't make a lot of mistakes. Have a handful of athletes here and there, have decent size, never overly big, but they've always got a handful of guys. And what they did well. I know offensively, their quarterback is slinging around. He had a good quick release. Their wide receivers committed to West Point, and he could play. I'm surprised they didn't try to throw it to him more often than what they did. We couldn't cover the guy.
Yeah.
And then, defensively, their D-line moved. They were decently sized. They were physical, and they gave their own line fits. They stunted all different kinds of directions, and the secondary was pretty solid as well. I would say out of our 6 games, probably the best defense we had seen all year, even above Summit's defense, because Summit's, at least we felt there was weaknesses on there. But Nolensville, they were – I guess that's why they're ranked 5th in the state right now, and they've only given up 4 touchdowns all year.
Wow.
I know, in 5 games. And, one of those teams they beat was Watertown. And, Watertown's a smaller school, but Watertown's no joke. They were pretty good last year. I don't know if they won state last year or if they were in it. But I know we did 7-on-7 with them in summer, and they had some guys. So I was impressed with Nolensville. They came out and hit us in the mouth, and we struggled. And sometimes you got to learn lessons from losses. So hopefully we can take that and learn from it, move forward with it. So
now this week we have one of my favorite teams to not go to, other than Lincoln County, is Franklin County.
Well, at least they're coming here.
Yeah. That's a 2.5-hour drive for you guys, especially at 55 miles. Well, whatever Dan Dickey decides to drive at.
It depends on who you're riding with.
But it's still 2.5 hours to get there and come back.
It's a haul. Yeah,
and you gotta want to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
But they are coming here, and we are going to recognize the 2009 team with their state runner-up status. Just happened to have in my hot little hands here the 2009 program.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I tell you, that was one of my favorite teams to coach. Obviously them in 2010, because those were the best 2 years, for me coaching.
Right.
But what made special about that 2009 group is, I guess, having coached them the year before and then seeing them work and seeing the fruition of that work just pay off, and those guys just making a commitment, up at Independence in the off season, and when the season was over, say we're gonna turn it around.
If you remember, the last game in 2008 up at Independence, those juniors called a team-only meeting.
So coaches, y'all wait outside. Okay.
And they lit them up, and I was telling them beforehand, probably 2008, 2009 teams were two of my 2 favorite teams, because you could see us getting better.
Yeah.
Better and better coming out of 2008, and good kids.
Oh yeah, and they just had the want to.
And then
every day they had the want to.
Hit that.
Yep.
Let me give you some names that we miss. Okay. Gerald Cisco, Chris Landwehr, tough guys.
They were good ball players too.
How much would you give for a kicker like Chris Harris?
Yeah, I'd give my left leg. Or,
I mean, how many times did I say Harris to kick, Ballou to hold?
Oh, a lot.
I mean,
a lot.
You know, and accurate,
Well,
super accurate.
And also, you know, just the fact of knowing that your defense is going to start out in the 20.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, well, 90% of his kicks went into the end zone.
I mean,
so.
the chances of an offense driving and scoring if you start in the 20, they're way down.
They go way down.
But if they're on like the 35 or 40, they're way up to get some points. So it's just
a player that got us to the state championship, and he's going to be here Friday night, Jerron Moore.
Yeah, Jerron. I mean, he ran the ball, you know, and he really came on that year. You know, he was back up in 08, a little bit here and there, but then really found his niche in 09 and really became an effective running back for us.
Helped us rest Trey D.
Yeah, which was huge.
Which was
Yeah.
huge.
It was huge.
That's another one.
Huge.
Trey D. Goff. You missed that.
Oh yeah. I mean, some of those guys are, you hate to say it, but they're almost, you know, once in a lifetime. You get an
They're
opportunity to coach
specimens.
and we just had to have a lot of them on the
Yeah.
same team. It
But I
was
mean,
nice.
you know, you got Ethan Myers, John
Yep.
Harvey, Bryant Ballou.
Yep. I mean,
You
good,
know.
good guys. I mean,
Oh.
athletes that played college ball with several guys. I mean, we had 2 or 3 guys go to West Point.
Yeah.
That alone speaks for itself with the type of character and kids that we had.
Well, then you got people like, well, of course, Shaq was on there, Shaq Mason.
Yep.
Big Kenny.
Big
Kenneth
Kenny.
Hughes.
Big Kenny Hughes. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's just you go down the names, you say, man, you know, you miss those
Don't forget
days.
Batman.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I am.
And we still
Batman.
had guys from Culleoka pulling their way too, with Chance Luna.
Well, then you had Chance McGee.
Yeah, Chance
You know, you had
McGee.
just great. And these were all the kids that we enjoyed on Saturday morning to
Oh, yeah.
interview.
Oh yeah.
You know, when Vance would come on and do the Saturday morning show, we talk about the first 5 minutes about last night, and the next 45 minutes was all about the kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Good kids too.
But I'll
Oh, they
never
were great
forget
kids.
Howard calling down, check Luke. And Rick Sykes goes back, and Howard goes, what about Luke? Coach, he thinks he's Batman.
That must have been after that kickoff.
Where you got a bell rung.
Yeah, he got hit and he came dizzying off the sideline. I was like, yeah, he's done.
Yeah, and then when the horn sounded for halftime, he goes, he
To the
jumps
Bat
up and says, to the
Cave."
Bat Cave.
And he actually missed the next week, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
He was concussed.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
But like Drake Fleming goes
Oh, yeah.
off to West Point.
Yep.
Then you got Wesley Cheatham, DeVaris Mosley, Tyree Scribner. They Zach Tate,
Yep.
Rocket.
Had some good kids on that team.
I've
Kids
never
that,
seen-
you know,
but-
that would stay after practice and work on things they had to get better on, that would stay after and get extra weights in, that would push each other in practice, hold each other accountable. You know, there's all the things
Yeah.
as a coach, like you preach to your players, they do this, it'll work, do this, and like they did it.
Well, the one thing that Vance said, that the kids would go to the field on their own
Yeah.
without the coaches being there.
Yeah.
They would get up there and start whatever they're going to do with their warm-ups before the coaches got there.
Yeah. I mean,
Now, that's dedication.
oh yeah, it is. And it's just, hey, we're here to get better. We're here to, we have a purpose. And
And what people don't realize, that really started in play about 2007.
oh yeah.
And then it came on, and you know, we were pretty good football team,
Oh, very competitive. Very competitive.
but we were just out of our class.
we were.
We were playing all those Williamson County.
Yep.
And some Rutherford County and this, that, and
Oh, yeah.
other, and then it just, you know,
Well,
we couldn't match up.
And
We
then
didn't-
finally, TWSLA reclassified
Right.
and made
You're
it
right.
and made it the
Well,
way
they
it
did.
should be. You know.
well, it was a 4-year deal.
Yeah.
And see, we were coming off of being in 4A, and we had some folks that weren't happy that we were playing 4A, even though we had made the playoffs every year. What, 6 or 7 years in a row?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I
the
mean,
string of
we
years
were,
there
we
that
were
we did.
really
Yeah.
competitive, and we
Right.
were playing teams.
I know in 2000,
that brought
2001.
people to
Yeah.
the stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, we were making some
Yeah.
money, and it was running good, but that wasn't good enough. We needed to play the top classification. No,
No. Yeah. Well, and the same thing with like basketball and baseball. I don't understand. There's 3 classifications, which
Right.
to me doesn't make any sense. Because if it's for us, if we're playing baseball or basketball, we're sitting at 1,400 students, and we win the district. You make it to the region. All of a sudden, you're playing Murfreesboro schools who are at 2,000 students. Like, where's the justification in that? I think in those other sports, there needs to be more than just 3 classifications. I know that makes more games and more of this and that, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to get teams to compete with one another, then you got to set them up to where they can compete. So
I'm gonna throw a name out here, and I loved all my kids from 2009, 2010. I loved all my kids have ever played. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm like the uncle that they all didn't have. So anyway, but Danny Parker. Danny Caveman Parker.
Yep.
Never forget his dad. God love him.
Yep.
Hit somebody.
Exactly.
Yep.
And he's hanging on the fence, sitting right there beside Doc.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt.
And he and Doc Myers are sitting on that fence. Like, hit somebody.
Never forget the freshman game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we won't go into details on that.
God love him. And Danny Parker, I see him from time to time.
I do too. Yeah.
And he still could play.
Oh, there's no
we
doubt.
need him back.
There's no doubt.
See if he's got any eligibility left.
I'd take somebody with his size. That's for sure.
But Danny Caveman Parker. When I was redoing the inside of the press box, he had been working in drywall with his dad for quite some time.
Yeah.
So we got some of the football boys to bring up the drywall that I was getting ready to put up because I wasn't going to carry that stuff up. No.
That stuff's not.
They did it and didn't even blink. They brought it all upstairs. I'm like, well, thanks, guys. Wow. That's great.
They're good guys, man.
Yeah.
They were.
And strong.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Just great guys. We appreciate it.
And
So what are we doing Friday night too? We just recognize them at halftime?
Yeah, I think at halftime we're going to call them all out to the middle of the field. They're going to do some kind of recognition for them.
Okay.
That's what I've been told. So I don't know if anything beyond that, but that's to my knowledge, that's what's going to go on. So
Daryl Duncan and Robert Boyd. I got to mention Robert Boyd's name.
Oh, yeah.
He was good too.
Oh yeah, they're great ball players.
Yeah, I can't mention them all, but I wish I could.
But we were talking about the quarterback switch in 2010.
Yeah.
But remember, Hayden Tate didn't tuck his tail and pout.
No. He became one of the best defensive players we've ever had.
Right.
Yeah, he stepped in and played strong safety for us, and did a good job. It was one of those things that he kind of worked there because that was his defensive position. So we would practice it, and then it was an area that we weren't doing great at. And so when we decided to move the switch, I went and talked to Hayden and said, dude, I said, look, you can get on the field and you can play defense for me. Ain't no doubt about that. And, it was the very next Monday we had that conversation, and all right, let's make it happen. And started getting reps, and he started playing good football for us. I mean,
he could have thrown his helmet down and threw a fit or whatever. He didn't.
He remember Oklahoma
stepped
playoffs.
up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He caused the lights to go out.
Yeah, he sure
But
did.
he made the hit, caused the fumble.
Yeah.
He got the ball.
Yeah.
Yep. He also had a good break up in the state championship game.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
2010 year.
Yeah, in the end zone.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Remember that? Yeah, that was the night the lights went out with Tullahoma.
that's right.
It was done by a TSSAA official, by the way, that was from the Tullahoma area.
It doesn't surprise me.
I'm just saying. Try turning them things out now. They ain't no way you can't get in the box.
Nope, can't get in there.
That's all right. We put that one away.
Always remember.
That's right.
I won't ever. It was even brought up the other day at the front office at Columbia Central when I'm standing out there, and the story was told about how the lights went out, and I said, always remember, when the lights went out
2-0
at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, we're 2-0.
That's right.
And I feel responsible for that. So I'll take those 2 wins.
There you go.
I remember the night after a jamboree that we couldn't turn the lights off on that side of the field.
That's right. Because of the switch.
Switch broke.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's call the parts. Hey,
Now, he called me. So what do we do? I said, leave them on.
Well, that's right. That's all we can do.
I said, you go stick a screwdriver in that box.
No.
And
Neither Miser Baloo or me were going to take some kind of step with that.
No.
We got a hold of the guy over the parks at the time, and he said, "Find you a hammer or something and beat on the side while you're flicking the switch." So we're up there. We had a big rock, pounding the side of the pole and flicking the switch.
It didn't work.
It didn't go out.
Oh, well.
So you were doing caveman style.
No, we was.
Yeah, and
We
this
were looking
and,
for
and like
Bob,
Dan,
Bob Martin was who was in charge of the park.
and like Dan said, with our first game being the backyard bowl, the music that was supposed to have been played and all that, well, we had it all lined up, and then
we had someone unplug the speaker.
Somebody unplugged the speaker. And we can't go down from where we're at.
We sent our new spotter, Guy Stafford.
Yeah.
You know, we sent him down there, and he came back up and said they've unplugged the speaker. I said, "Well, go plug it back up." He said, "I did," and they immediately unplugged it again. I said, "Okay."
So
we will not send names out. Who
Dan
says,
did it. Well, we'll fix that problem. So we went out there the next week and installed the.
Well, y'all did a fine job, and they sound great.
And by the way, we're going to continue the lion roar after every touchdown or fumble or whatever. So
I thought it was pretty cool.
Fumble recovery or interception,
big play,
big play. Every big play, there'll be a roar.
That's awesome. I loved that. I thought it sounded great.
By the way, we will say our press box team that has not been mentioned for 2 years in our program, for whatever reason it is, but includes me as the head announcer, my backup announcer, and co-press box administrator is Eddie Bobo. We have a new spotter by the name of Guy Stafford, who has a child freshman on the team. And Dan Dickey's still doing scoreboard operations. So that's the press box crew, folks. Even though you don't know who we are, that's who we are.
Y'all do a fine job too.
Thank you.
Never have to worry about it.
Well, I appreciate that. But anyway, that's who we are. That's what we do, and we'll continue on doing it. But anyway, we have homecoming coming up on the 18th.
Right.
We have the 17th. We have the Hall of Fame, which we have 10 inductees, including our former coach.
That's right,
Vance Ballou.
I'm excited for him. That definitely honors.
But I can't I'm trying to keep everybody to around 5 minutes. I got to trim his back from the 30 that I've got.
Yeah, I can
in order to induct him.
You just stay as long as you need for Vance Ballou. It'd be okay.
How much you got for Coach Claiborne?
I got a lot for Coach Claiborne. The one thing that I did find, though, in researching the 1952 team was I got two little bits of information on a piece of paper about state champions, 1952 team. I said, this is not going to get it. I got to do something else. So I went into a packet of someone who was on the 1952 team, and they had compiled a scrapbook of the 51 team, 52, and 53 teams.
Oh, wow.
With news articles from the Tennessean, the Daily Herald, and the Nashville Banner.
There you go.
And so I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to present it, but it's going to be kind of interesting the way I'm going to do it. And I'm going to get the kind of information that you go, wow, I didn't know that. But the one thing I will say, they used a doctor that worked for the Nashville Banner. They used his statistics in order to determine the winner of the state championship.
Right, because it was different back then.
Yeah.
There was no playoff. There was nothing.
Right.
That's pretty cool, though.
So it was like 98.3 is what Columbia Central came up with at that time. And the closest one, I believe, and don't hold me to this, but I think the closest one was Shelbyville, if I'm not mistaken, because they were a powerhouse at that time.
Yeah, they were pretty good at that time too. I remember I read something the other day. It was in Coach Creech's office. So, well, that'll be interesting. Now.
Yeah, I got some good stuff.
Yeah, so we have our homecoming game will be the week after fall break. We're off next week. And it happens to be Page, so we didn't go and circle the easiest team on our schedule. I originally wanted this week to be homecoming, but due to this being exam week,
Right.
couldn't
Right.
do all the homecoming activities with exams going on.
But doesn't homecoming just drive you nuts during that
does.
week?
It does.
Because the focus is not where you need for it to be?
It is, and it'd be different if all the other activities weren't there with it. If it was
Yeah.
just the ceremony on Friday night, that'd be fine. But it's just there's so much going on during the school week that it's trying to pulls players in different directions. And I've been on both sides of it. I'm at the point I'm like, look, guys, enjoy it, have fun. Just make sure you're focused at practice and you're getting your schoolwork done, and you're in high school, homecoming, have fun, but just don't lose sight of what the task is at hand. So, I'm kind of a little more relaxed, I guess, than I was early on in coaching. But everybody has to go through homecoming every year, so I've got to face it at one point or another. So.
All right, so let's talk about this young pup of a football player who seems to be emerging and catching touchdowns. Number 22 by the name of Jason Hoath.
Yeah,
he's taller than you now.
He
Hoss.
is. He's about
I'm just
6'1".
saying.
Yeah. I hope he keeps growing. I do. I hope he keeps growing. I think he wants to keep growing too. Hopefully that'll happen.
Does he want to play basketball?
Yeah, he's on the basketball team.
Oh, okay.
So he'll play with the JV there in the basketball schedule. He's done really well. I mean, I've been proud of him. He's had a good freshman year, done well in the JV games. I think the best thing I can say about him is that he's coachable. He's going to do. I guess I'll brag on him because he's my son. I'll step out of the coaching shoes for a sec, but he reminds me of like your Drake Fleming type kids. Those type guys that will do anything you ask them to do. Will go above and beyond. Hey, this is your workout. I'm going to leave, and he's not going to miss any of his reps. He's going to run all the sprints hard. He wants to do well. So
just because you walk away does not mean he stops.
Right. He wants to get better, and he's got a drive to him. So I'm excited to see what he does next few years. But he's done really well. He's catching on, learning everything, and he's just taking it all in. So
what is his specialty going to be? Wide receiver?
I think it'll be a tight end.
Okay.
I'm trying to work on putting some weight on. He's 180 right now, which is pretty good size for a freshman. But he down blocks really well. So I mean, like, you need tight ends that can down block in our offense, and he does it really good. And he'll only get better from here on out. And he runs pretty good routes. He's caught the ball for the most part when they've thrown it to him. So need to work on his speed a little bit. Not the fastest out there, which is okay. But he definitely has a drive to get better. So I'm excited for him.
But speed will come.
It will. It will.
Well, speed is important, but good route running and have the ability to get open.
Mm-hmm.
To me, means a whole lot more.
Oh yeah, it does. I think he's.
I mean, you can make a career on catching 6, 7, 8 yard passes.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that.
I mean, look at Jason Witten. You
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Frank Wycheck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rodriguez.
I know, so I'm excited about it. I think he's got a good future ahead of him, and keeps on working and keeps on growing. And you never know. See what happens.
So who picked Shelbyville for our senior night?
I mean,
we haven't had you in here all season. These are the questions that people want to know.
And it was one of those things where I guess technically you can do senior night whenever you want to. I know Giles County, sometimes they do it first game of the year and get it over with.
Yeah,
they did it when we went down there to play them.
I know, and I was like,
a few years ago. They had senior night first.
It's like
game.
they got it out of the way and done.
And it's really not a bad idea. I guess traditionally it's always our last home game. And
why couldn't we combine backyard bowl, senior night, and homecoming all at once? That way we get everything done.
I know.
And we move on. Let's play football.
I know.
Well, then we couldn't have had the TSU band out there.
Well, that's true. That's true.
It might have been homecoming starts at 5 and the senior night at 6. But it just happened to be when we redrew for the region because our region had to meet and we had to redraw home and away games. The number I drew just happened to be, we're playing Page and Shelbyville last 2 region games, and we happened to get them both home this year because we hosted Page last year. Because Page and Lincoln County were the only games that we played at the same location we did the year before. You know, we went to Lincoln County 2 years in a row. We hosted Page 2 years in a row. Every other game happened to alternate like normal. But yeah, it happens to be where Page is homecoming and Shelbyville senior night. So probably the two top teams in our region. So you know, and they played each other already, and I believe Page pulled out a win in like double overtime.
Really?
It was I don't know if it was a touchdown called back or something called back at the end of the game. It was questionable. It was a battle, to the very end with those two teams. So, good ball teams too.
Yeah, they are. Any Williamson County team is a good ball team.
No, there's no doubt. Yeah, they just, they always have good numbers. Kids play hard too. So, they're all well coached as well. So, and then the game in between is our last non-region game in Stratford. And Stratford, I believe, they're 3 or 4A. I think.
Are we at Stratford?
We were at Stratford this year, and they're tough as well. You know, they have a running back who's returning. He's a senior this year. I haven't seen how big he is, but I hear he's about 6'1", 220.
Whoa!
And he rushed for over 2,000 yards last year as a junior. So we'll have our hands full with him.
The quarterback was pretty good size. They had a short film clip on one of the channels Saturday morning, and looked pretty good size.
I wouldn't be surprised that
Did you see where Glencliff had?
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Season.
But their numbers came back. Some of the players came back, so they're going on a week-to-week basis now,
trying to
as to whether or not they're going to be playing somebody. So
and you hope and I know Glencliff they have struggled the last probably decade,
right?
Just battling for wins, and they've been that 1-9 or 2-8 type team.
That's kind of like the UT Vols, isn't it?
Well, I remember.
No, they ain't nothing like the UT Vols.
93 or 94.
Vols got beat on the bye week 24-7.
They came down and played us, and at that time Bob Duncan was the stadium announcer, and right before halftime he asked me if I had a piece of paper. I said, yeah. I slid it. He said, no. He said, take a pen and a piece of paper and go over and get those 13 people's names that came, and we'll thank them for coming.
I know, yeah.
Because that's how many.
That's about how it's been there too, and
they showed up.
And some places it's tough. It's hard to keep your numbers up. I mean, my numbers have dwindled a little bit too. I mean, every football program I think starts with numbers high, then I think kids realize, man, this is a lot. This is a large
it's
commitment.
hard.
This is, it's been 90 degrees for 95 days straight. I mean, this is a little more than I've asked for.
Like I said, this is the 71st day of July 31st.
I know. I tell you what, it has been. This has probably been the hottest year, start to finish, and we're not finished yet. But
yeah, well, what do you guys do? I mean, do you have your trainer out there with a thermometer reader
He's got
thing?
He's got his heat index thing. We actually have an app on our phone now too, where we can, if it's hanging up over the side, we can just pull out our phone and check the heat index with what it says. There's been a few times we've had to go in or at least start practice for the first 45 minutes inside because, one day we looked 3 o'clock, the heat index was like 109. I was like, well, we're inside today.
Yeah.
And then, an hour later it dropped down to 102.5. And all right, we can go out now. But
Wow.
it's been around that 98 to 101. I mean, it's teetering on the edge a lot, but I tell you what, it makes it difficult. One, it's extremely hot. You have to worry about your being practice, but it's when these kids are out there, it's on their mind too, and they know it's hot, and you're out there for 3 hours, and the heat does play a toll.
Oh yeah, especially if you're in pads and all that stuff. Yeah.
So sometimes you have productive practice. Some days you're like, man, that wouldn't look very good, and you got to remind yourself, well, it's 100 degrees the entire time we're out here.
Yeah.
But I think at least now I think we're used to it. I mean, at this point we should be, but I don't think I've ever remembered going into the 7th week of the season and being 100 degrees for every day of practice.
No, never. I mean, usually by this time we're 75 degrees.
And of course, it's supposed to be 82 Friday night as a high, so I might have to pull out my toboggan and my sweatshirt. I'm not gonna know what I'm gonna do with myself.
You'll still have your shorts on, though. I know.
You'll still have the shorts on.
Bundled up, it's gonna be cold.
Yeah, it'll be 30 degrees out there, and you'll still be out there in shorts. I know you. I've seen you around too much.
Yeah.
So, who do you think is the most improved player
Oh wow.
on the team? I mean, somebody that started the year and it was like, yeah, we're not real sure about this guy, but he's really starting to shine.
I tell you, I think the most improved player up to this point is Lath Natty, our corner, number 88. You know, that was one of our big question marks coming into the season. You know, who's going to play defensive back? Who's going to be corner? We took Blake Simmons. He was our only returning starter in the secondary from last year. Moved him to free safety, which he's done outstanding there. He's got 3 interceptions on the year. Went down last week with turf toe. But, you know, Natty steps in, and Natty's always been a kid who he always knew what to do. He was a hard worker. But up to this point, like, just couldn't make the play. Yeah, was there, just couldn't make the play. And he is kind of steadily starting to make those plays. Now, last week he did go against a good receiver. They got the best of him. But, you know, up to that point, you know, the first 5 games of the year, he has been really solid for us. He's come up and he's been physical on his tackles. He's been in position for coveraging. So it's one of those things that, you know, I know they tested him on the deep ball, but once he kind of locked up that position, we haven't really had to worry about it too much. Not like I was thinking of the season ago. So for him to step in that role and do the job he's done, you know, like the Gerald Cisco's or Trey Tates that we had, they're just undersized. You know, it's easy to look out and say, hey, there's a 5'6" corner out there. I'm going to throw it to his side, and he's done a pretty good job. So I've been pleased with him. A lot of other guys have done great this year for us, obviously, but I think improved from last year to this year to where he was at, where he's at now, I'd have to give it to him.
Where did you get the kicker? The kicker's getting better.
So, talking about which kicker we're talking about. So the first one I talk about is Josue, number 36, Josue Guerrero. He played his sophomore year. Didn't play very much, but played his sophomore year. And then, you know, he's a soccer player. So we went, you know, talked him into coming out this year again. He is dealing with some pulled muscle right now, so you probably won't see him Friday night. I think that's kind of why he was putting the ball in the end zone there for a while. Then Lincoln County kind of just dribbled some down there, and then last week against Nolensville, I think he just kicked it wrong, and he was done after that. But then my other kicker, number 3, Max Patton, he's a freshman. Finally talked him into playing football.
Is he soccer?
He's a soccer player and he's a basketball player.
Oh, okay.
Parents have held him back from football, you know, just cautious, and finally talked him into letting him do it. I said, hey, I'll just let him kick. You know, he ain't gonna do anything else. Just let him kick.
We'll protect him.
That's right. Yeah. And now it's like I gotta teach him how to tackle just in case now. But you know,
unless you're a Chris Harris who wanted to hit somebody.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I think Max doesn't want to too. I just, you know, I'm like, we'll let you tackle, but let's hold on here. I don't want to lose you. But he's only going to get better. I mean, he's doing our place kicking for us. We've had a few misses, which, you know, it's first time playing football. There's going to be some miscues here and there, but I'm pleased with where he's come. He'll probably be our full-time kicker Friday. He's not putting the ball in the end zone yet on kickoffs, but I think with time he will get there. You know, Chris Harris has come a few days. He's worked with them.
Yeah, but Chris Harris was kicking since he was 2. Right.
And so, I think there's a lot of promise with him. So I'm excited about that situation too.
So Chris is going to work with him.
When Chris has been in town, he's been able to come a handful of days, and he's worked with him a little bit just on some technique and stuff. So that's nice. Awesome that you know, former players giving back to the program in that kind of way and helping guys out. So it's good.
Good deal.
Yeah,
I'd like to get a lot of these guys that were on the championship teams and the runner-up teams to come back and give back to the programs, even if it's just a little bit. You know, this is what we accomplished, this is what we did, and this is how we did it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, you know, they've got a legacy, that school, that'll never die, and you know, those guys are always welcome. It's always good to see them when they come around too. So,
do you ever bring out the championship ring and show them?
Very rarely. Just because, you know, many things that we did, and the guys we have now, you know, they were little kids.
Oh yeah.
So it's a different feel for them. So I try to keep it as, hey, it's about you guys now, live in this moment, and we'll see where it takes us. But special occasions, it'll come out.
Well, I have to share this. I'm thinking when I'm doing the band contest on Saturday, that we won the contest of champions, the big kahuna in 2001.
Right.
And then I was thinking in the band room the other day, my God, some of these kids were not even born
when we
won the contest of champions.
I know. I got a
so
plaque
they really
in my
don't
garage.
understand. You know, they don't understand the magnitude of winning the big trophy.
Oh, no. My wife was on that team, on the Contest of Champions.
Yeah.
So we got a plaque in our garage with it. But it's been
I
a
know.
while. Yeah. So.
I remember.
But the band outs at the competition, they did a fine job. I was very, very proud
It was
of them.
reminiscent of 2001.
Yeah.
There were tears in the press box about how good it was.
Yeah, they
And
did really good.
we got chill bumps.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like those. I never get to watch them because of halftime. So
Yeah. Well, what about Friday night? You're not going to be able to either. You're going to be celebrating with the team out there in 2009. You're not going to be in the back there in the dressing room.
depends on how the first half goes. I mean, if we got a big lead, I'll probably stay out there for a little bit. But
And then
if we
I'll
got
say-
some adjustments to make, I'm gonna have to go to the locker
Yeah, then I'm
room.
going to say, and in the dressing room,
Right.
Coach Jason Hoath.
Yeah, there'll be a handful of us in there, that's for sure. So I know. So that's the only downfall about it. You know,
How
during
hard is it
halftime.
for you as a defensive-minded coach, which you have been for years and years and years, when you see your defense struggling out there and you know that they can do better and you know that you have prepped them, that your defensive coordinator has prepped
Right.
them better, but from a defensive-minded coach such as you are, what goes through your mind during the progression of the game?
well, sometimes I mean you can easily get frustrated when you've gone over something over and over and over in practice, and then when you finally see it happen in the game and like make the play and they don't make it, it can be frustrating. But sometimes you got to sit back and remind yourself, man, these are teenagers. They're going to make mistakes, and you know it's just got to keep on coaching them, even when they make mistakes. Hey, they're going to happen. Let's fix it now. Let's fix it now so it doesn't happen again. You know, but there's times definitely where it's easily to get frustrated with if they don't do them, because it's usually that's all it takes is. They knew what was going on. They just stepped wrong, 2 steps the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's all it takes sometimes for a play to break wide open. You know, and Jermaine Moss he's been an outstanding ball player for us this year, playing strong safety. But you know, if you go in and you're supposed to come down and set the edge, and you think it's going inside, and you take 2 steps inside, he bounces out around you. I mean, you're giving up 20 yards right there, and it's just it's little things like that.
But when the play goes right,
Right, then it looks a
looks-
thing of beauty. Yeah, and I think I get really excited on defense when we make a play that like that's what we coach you to do, and you did it to perfection, and look what happens. You know, and so it's awesome to see the guys. You know, that's not just a busted play turns into but like a base play where they run the ball or throw the ball and they just do their job and they defend it well and they make a stop. That's the biggest joy, because you can see that. Man, they're paying attention to what you coach them. They're actually executing the technique, and they can see that it works if they just do their job, and it's fun to watch. So, but defense has been they've been stellar this year. I've been really pleased with how they've done.
good deal. Well, we'll see what happens on Friday night.
I know they'll have a task ahead of them, about 40 different formations that Franklin County runs. A lot of the same plays, but all different kinds of formations. So. I already told Coach Taylor, I said they're going to run buck trap because they ran about 400 yards last time they were here with the
I
buck
remember.
trap.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little Michigan football.
oh,
Can't let you leave here without doing
might
that.
not be much to talk about.
Well, we got number 14 Iowa, which is 4-0, going up
Yep.
against number 19 Michigan, which
Yep.
is 3-1,
Yep.
and they will play at 11 a.m. Eastern on Fox on Saturday.
Yeah, they started out slow against MTSU. Slow a little bit against Army, even though I'm not going to take anything away from Army because 39 seniors and they went 11-2 last year, went overtime with Oklahoma. So I was
They
like,
have guns.
They're pretty good. So when I watched that game, I was like, we pulled it out in double overtime. I was like, man, Army's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think they'll win out the rest of the year. But then they'll go to Wisconsin. Camp Randall's a tough place to play, but it was awful. So at least they came back and won last week against Rutgers. And again, it was Rutgers, but at least they won in the fashion you're supposed to win those games. So, I think right now we just don't know what kind of Michigan team we're going to get. Don't know which one's going to show up.
The
So,
most impressive team that I see on the schedule is Oklahoma, number 6. They're at 4-0, but Jalen Hurts is an amazing quarterback. He's the quarterback that can go out and score 60 points on you
Oh, yeah.
and then say, we got to do better.
And I tell you what, a lot of people are talking about. It sure would be nice to see an Oklahoma
Ooh,
Alabama
yes,
playoff.
Eddie and I talked about that the other day.
Yeah, whether it's the championship game or the playoff, I think that would just be one of those games that would draw a lot of TV air.
You couldn't sell enough tickets.
Oh no, you couldn't just because.
guarantee you.
And I think people would be pulling for Oklahoma just to
I
pull
think
for
they would
Jalen
be.
Hurts. You
Yeah.
know, but we talked about before. Just he exemplifies what it means to be a teammate and put the team above himself, and that's hard in today's time for young people to put the needs of the team above the needs of their
But the amazing thing about Jalen Hurts, he never complained.
No, he didn't.
He never griped. He never went to the media. He just went to another team.
He just did his job, and the opportunity came from.
He had already graduated from Alabama, so there's no need.
He fulfilled his obligation in Alabama.
There's no reason to hang around now.
Yeah.
And,
So not to take any away from Alabama's quarterback either, because he's a stud
too.
too.
It's
We just
good.
love the story that's behind Jalen Hurts. He's just a guy that you pull for. You want to see him succeed.
I was just sitting here looking at some other games of interest in the SEC. Mississippi State at Tennessee.
I thought Georgia and Tennessee.
Georgia. I'm sorry, Georgia.
Yeah,
and Tennessee.
Georgia, then
Tennessee.
Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And then Alabama for Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any easier.
No. It
And-
quit
Better
being
win that one in the middle.
But here's and we'll take this in the last 3 minutes. Here's the thing: you cannot get rid of Jeremy Pruitt
No.
because you need to give him at least 4 to 5 years to get that program back up to where it needs to be. Yeah. And there is not a coach in the world, even you wouldn't even take a job where the coach had 18 months to pull something together.
That's hard.
And then you fire him.
Yep.
Who's going to come into that position? Nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody in their right mind, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Derek Dooley.
Derek Dooley.
Well, and talking about Jeremy Pruitt, and I've heard a lot about because I follow a lot of the Michigan people. Everybody's fire Harbaugh. And my question's always, well, if you fire your coach, then you better go steal a top name coach. And if you can't steal a top name coach, then are you really improving your program?
Well, you heard a name that a lot of Michigan.
Oh, Les Miles.
No. Mr. Urban Meyer.
There's no way he would go to Michigan. I mean,
that was a name.
But that
a
would,
lot of Michigan
but that would be an
fans have
example.
thrown
Like
out there.
if you're gonna ever fire Jim Harbaugh, then and Urban Meyer, are you gonna be able to pull a Dabo Swinney? Can you pull Nick Saban? If you can't get those guys, then then he's probably your best option to stick with. Because who else are you gonna get that's gonna be able to beat those Ohio States? I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think he's a good coach, and you just gotta give it time. Of course, every fan base, if you're not winning the national championship, somebody's got to go, So,
well, guys, we've had a good hour. Thank you, Coach, for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
This is always fun.
Hang around. We're going to have pizza in a minute.
Sounds good.
Don't go away. At least we hope it'll come knocking on the door. And for everybody on the All the Ball Sports Show, I'm Dan James. Have yourself a nice evening, everybody.